smoking to live in there. Because Vestas is one of the companies that, in their literature that describes their turbine, it tells the person who's working on them, get your work done and get out of there. And to me, those are the kind of things, and also the promotional material put out by the wind energy companies will admit that OSHA has been absent in their studies. One of the things that we as decision makers have a very difficult time doing is because there's the information that's out there, it's been difficult for people to trust. But you see, the federal government has given them a pass. And the wind energy companies will tell you that, and they'll also tell you, hey, be on the alert that OSHA is going to make a difference in the occupational areas. But they haven't yet gone into the areas of actually studying the impacts you're talking about. Because again, that's where the money would come from that you're talking about that's happening today. And so the studies, a lot of times you folks, you wonder why haven't the studies been done. It's because the promotional policies of the federal government have been such that they promote the expansion of, quote, green energy, and they have not done the proper studies. And I'm going to tell you, I read like renewable energy and things like that, and they tell their people that are members, be aware, OSHA's going to crack down. Well, it's unfortunate that so much of the stuff is going on, and they didn't investigate before they don't.
Yeah, I'm not actually familiar with those workers' handbook. That's pretty interesting.
Well, there's a particular model of Vestas that have it.
Okay. Yeah, I'd actually kind of like to see that if you could send it to me. I mean, as for your point about getting a pass, I mean, that goes back to my observation that if this were a pharmaceutical or chemical exposure, there would have had to have been a lot more scrutiny of the effect that it has on the public and on workers than there has been. So yes, this is really an anomaly in those terms.
Young lady in the back.
We'll just switch up toward the mic.
Karen Kenny, Cape Breton, Illinois. Karen Kenny, Cape Breton, Illinois. We have a proposed wind development in our area as well, and we have been doing over 300 hours worth of research. And I do have the exact quote from the Vestas handbook that I could share with you. So yes, that is true. They do have that for their own workers. And as far as the question that was raised about the workers, the employers of the wind companies as they are working on projects, there's two that come to mind. There's one in Lincoln Township, Wisconsin, that is recorded of a worker getting sick and he could not stay in the area and nor stay on the project. But then Mr. Rand of Rand Acoustics, who is very well known out on the East Coast, and I believe he's from Maine, worked with these and doing the decibels for over 10 years. He now is a recorded statistic. The wind was at the right direction, and him and his partner both got ill. And they had to leave the area and go so many miles away. The symptoms subsided. When they came back, they all came back, all the symptoms. So he is now a recorded statistic, and so there are cases of that. We have a proposed development that will have several wind turbines within less than a mile of 3 schools. So we are concerned about that for the children's well-being. And when we showed the movie Windfall and we did the Skype with the director, she was astounded at that fact and was very concerned about students with learning disabilities and how the shadow and flicker and all these other things would compromise their school day. There has been a July 2011 Energy Department report on wind energy, and the taxpayers are subsidizing it more than 42% now at this point. So it is very inefficient and one of the most expensive next to solar.
Just quick response. I know that wasn't really a question, but on the classroom issue, there is good literature, particularly from New York City, about the effects of train tracks near classrooms and so forth. And I can put you in touch with the researcher who's sort of the leading expert on that particular set of information, and that might be who's most useful for you on that point.
Okay, just a second. I want to know, there's less than 10 minutes and this meeting will be adjourned. So if there's anyone out here that hasn't spoke, get your hand up. Yes? Steve? Okay.
Allison Kelly of Franklin Cove. In your expert opinion, should the county allow wind turbines at all?
Yeah, we couldn't understand it.
I believe she asked, in my expert opinion, should the county allow wind turbines at all? Is that a question? Yeah. That's of course the key question, and it's a very tough one. I don't know exactly what the population, well, I don't know a lot about the population distribution here. I am guessing that it's such that there's almost nowhere that you can put a turbine that isn't within a mile of someone's home. And I think that it's very difficult to be able to justify knowing what we know right now and not knowing what we don't know right now, placement that close. If there are stretches of this county where they could be 2 miles away, I would say from the perspective of the health impacts and the quality of life impacts, setting aside the point that was made about whether this is over-subsidized and so forth as being an entirely different topic, you couldn't object to that from that perspective. So there might be some spots out there that are safe. There probably aren't very many of them, and if I were a decision maker, which of course I'm not, I can't imagine anything that could persuade me to allow one of these to be within a mile of someone's home, given our current state of knowledge.
Anybody else that hasn't spoken yet? Okay.
Just want to know from the board here if that nice young lady from Cap Run, would you agree with her to move those wind farms to 2 miles away instead of a mile away from these things under your government policies?
We haven't made any determination.
I know you haven't. I'm just asking you, would you take that in consideration if it came under your jurisdiction?
That'd be left up to the board, not me.
That's what I just asked.
I don't know. I'm not answering for the other 4 members. Any other? Yes.
Susie Miller from Ashton. We have some wind company representatives here. They've been awfully silent during this question and answer session, and I'm wondering if they have anything to ask Dr. Phillips, or are we going to hear it at one of the future meetings where he can't defend what he's saying?
John Martin with Mainstream Renewable Power, Chicago, Illinois. Since we're being asked to comment, I'd like to make the following statement. I believe that the board has now heard a philosophical statement about the studies of other studies, and more importantly, a good number of the theories, some personal hypotheses and predictions that lead to, in Dr. Phillips' words, no, we don't know that, but it would be interesting to study. Mr. Phillips has not offered a direct answer to multiple questions, including some from the board, Ms. Anderson's. There's been no direct answer to those questions. To summarize what I can from the initial presentation and subsequent indirect or incomplete answers to the question, Dr. Phillips would like more studies. The board has physically received a number of the actual studies he references. Actually, I found very few actual references in his testimony. But you now have testimony about the study of some of these other studies. Could we wait for more studies about studies, or more importantly, studies about those studies? That seems like an endless cycle. Not only do Dr. Phillips' study contain legitimate scientific uncertainty in his own words, but the basis for his work has already been submitted and will likely to continue to be before we're done with this review. Let's collect this evidence, review it, and make informed decisions. We are confident that you will be able to you, the board, will be able to weed through this information to come to a conclusion that works for Lee County.
Any other questions?
Is it, Rich Morris, Village of Lee, is it permissible to ask Mr. Martin a question?
Yes?
Mr. Martin, in your company's contracts, would your confidentiality clause stop someone from adverse reporting health issues?
Those contracts are inherently confidential themselves, so I'm not willing to
Great.
I'd like to jump in. I know we have only a couple of minutes left.
I'm just confused. Are we taking more testimony? I mean,
Because
you had an hour and we're done. I'd
We're
like
done,
to.
we'll be done here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, can I respond to what Mr. Martin said really quick? I mean, I think it's probably obvious to everyone in the room that, the characterization of what I said kind of missed the most important point of what I said, which is we have overwhelming evidence that there are serious health problems. He kind of glossed over that. As for the attempt to denigrate the fact that I couldn't answer every question that's been asked to me, I'm not embarrassed or apologetic for acting like a scientist and saying I don't know when I genuinely don't know something. I think you'll notice that I said we do know about an awful lot of things.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Anderson asked you directly, was there a study regarding such and such a thing? And you gave a lengthy answer and you didn't say no or yes or I don't know anywhere in that.
Well, since we don't have much time and this really isn't the courtroom, I'm not going to say could we read the transcript back on this. I don't recall exactly how that conversation went. My goal here has been to try to educate everyone as best I can. When the question was asked, I tried to provide what I perceive to be the most educational answer, the most scientifically accurate answer that could be given in response to that question. I realize that I perhaps didn't behave according to lawyerly courtroom rules, but that's not what I was trying to do. I was I'm working under the assumption that we have people here trying to make sense of a complicated body of evidence, and I don't have to say yes or no. I can try to help.
Gentleman in the brown shirt, he's the last one to speak.
Keith Boland with Main Street Renewable Power, the Walnut, Illinois office, also a school board official. Just for the record, we can say that there is nothing that would prevent an individual from reporting an illness in our contract. And personally, I'd be offended if anybody insinuating that here, standing up front. One other thing I would like to clarify, sir, or ask you to clarify, is the Ogle County testimony, you stand behind that today. I mean, you're satisfied with your testimony at Ogle County, that everything in the testimony is accurate, that you did under oath?
That was certainly my intention. I haven't read back over the transcript. If you ask me about a particular point, it was a very strange format for testimony and a little bit difficult to communicate effectively like I was able to do here today. I would not be surprised that there wasn't a sentence in there somewhere in which I misspoke, given the nature of it. You'd have to ask me about something specific for me to give you a better answer.
I have a daughter who is going to go to college at some point, one that's in law school. I would look forward